how do we manage the protein transition? Which food components can provably boost your immune system? What's the best way to validate health claims for food and food components? Listen to our food and health experts discuss the biggest questions facing the food, nutraceutical, and food ingredient industries today. Welcome to NIZO Talks Food and Health.
By 2050, the global population may reach 10 billion people. Feeding this population will require increasing food production by more than 60%. This places intense pressure on resources, including arable land and fresh water. Food and ingredient companies are thus turning an interesting eye towards microbial biomass as a potential sustainable source of protein. As Rianne Ruijschop, Department Head Health and Nutrition at NIZO explains, it's time to look at the potential nutritional and health benefits as well. By 2050, the world population will have grown until 10 billion people. So feeding those people will be an enormous pressure on resources, arable land and water. The industry is turning to new sources, for example, microbial biomass for proteins. But that's not the only story for microbial biomass. There is another aspect, which is health. Today, Rianne Ruijschop, Division Manager Health and Nutrition at NIZO, will enlighten us on this. Rianne, welcome.
Thank you.
So microbial biomass as a starter. What is it and why is it interesting, such an interesting ingredient for the industry?
Well, the term microbes, as it's used here, is the broad connotation of yeast, algae, bacteria and fungi. So microbial biomass is the result of the fermentation of organic substrates, such as byproducts from the sugar industry or other processing residues, and also hydrogen substrates, including methane and methanol. Mm-hmm. And microbial biomass, which is suitable for animal and human consumption, has often been referred to as single-cell protein products. So the concept of microbial biomass is not that new, it's not entirely new, so to say. Mm-hmm. So already during the World War I, Germany produced edible yeast for food on large scale. Yeah. But edible microorganisms had the idea grow further in the 60s of the past century, which eventually led to the introduction of microprotein, better known as corn, yeah. Which is derived from the Fusarium venenatum fungus. So the primary incentive, the use of edible microorganisms as a sustainable food source is sustainability. Because if you compare that to raising plants and animals, much less water and arable land is required. And on top of that, also in the context of side streams, valorization and also reducing wastage, it can turn that side streams and or waste streams or the discarded residues into valuable proteins. Yeah. So all in all, I think there's a lot of benefits, and even beyond that, also in the context of nutrition and health, it can offer a lot of benefit for producers and eventually the consumer.
Yeah, so you touched upon the protein content of those types of organisms grown on side stream, for example. But the question is the microbial protein content comparably high to, for example, meat or dairy? Could you explain a bit about that?
Yes, for example, with algae, the protein content is between 45 and 64% by dry weight. For fungi, that is about 30 to 50%. For example, the microprotein has a protein content of 45% by its dry weight. Yeah. And with bacteria, that can be even higher, so between 50 and 80% protein content. And yeast roughly have a protein content of about 50%. So if you compare that, it's very well comparable to traditional meat and dairy products. And in the light of a plant-derived alternative, often the protein content is even higher with microbial biomass protein.
Yeah. So protein is very important, also the quantity as you explained, but there's also another aspect, which is the quality of protein. So how would you determine, how would you look at the quality of protein of microbial biomass?
So then you have to look into two different aspects. One is the amino acid profile, so the actual amino acid composition, and the other one is the bioavailability. So how freely available are the amino acids to be used by the human body?
Yeah.
So amino acids have a key role in the body's functioning. So they have an important function in muscle and tissue repair and various other functions. And as a benchmark, if you look to animal protein, that contains all 9 essential amino acids.
Yeah.
The amount of proteins in microbial biomass is very well comparable to meat and fish. So, but on the other hand, if you compare that to plant-derived proteins, it is on one hand it's sometimes lacking certain amino acids, and also it is lower in certain amino acids.
So that is the let's say the quality and the composition of the proteins, but there are possibly other aspects. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, so I said in the beginning, next to amino acid composition, it's also about bioavailability. And here's where digestion comes in. So digestion starts in the mouth with mastication and saliva, and is continued in the stomach with the release of gastric juices and the intestines, where bile and pancreatic and intestinal juices come into play. So the amino acid chains are then broken down into individual amino acids. And then they are being absorbed by the small intestines, released into the bloodstream, and thereby they are delivered throughout the body. And if you look into differences and how that also refers to the traditional dairy and meat type of products, you see that the digestibility of microbial protein differs. For instance, in the case of fungi, that's equal comparable or equal digestible compared to milk and egg protein, for example. But if you look to algae, and that's mainly because of the algae cell walls, you see that digestibility is reduced. And by breaking down that algae cell wall, also the digestibility of algae can be improved.
Yeah, so there are a lot of aspects to that, and there's a lot to be done to improve that. That's what I hear you say. But that's one aspect of the biomass. There are possibly other aspects in the nutritional and health sphere. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes. So indeed, focus is not only on protein, although very important, of course, but microbial biomass is also able to serve as a vegan source for delivering a broad range of vitamins, fats or fiber. So if you look, for example, into the vitamins, vitamin K2, which is not found in plants, but can be produced by certain bacteria. And vitamin K2 has an important role in blood clotting, but also in bone and heart health. And if you take another example, like algae, algae is a great source of omega-3 fatty acids, like DHA and EPA, and those also have a vital role in cell wall structure. So that also then has an impact on heart, lungs, the blood vesicles, and also immune functions. And in the context of the fiber, which are being provided by microbial biomass, that can have also an additional nutritional and health benefit. Because with algae and yeast, they contain a rich source of beta-glucans. And beta-glucans are already known to have an impact on immune function.
Yeah. So there is a whole array of health aspects connected to these microorganisms and their contents. But if you want to get those microorganisms in hand, how would you choose the right substrate for producing such biomass for foods?
At the moment, the rationale for exploring microbial biomass is sustainability. But apart from that, and a sort of prerequisite, you need to ensure that you have viable products in the end. So questions that need to be addressed is indeed how easy is it to cultivate the substrate, the same about how to isolate the proteins. And if we take back again the example of the algae, you need to break down the cell wall. So the question is there, if you do that, what is then the impact of that additional processing step? Yeah. So in the end, it's all about developing an ingredient which has the right functionality. So also there, assessing, okay, what is the potential of that ingredient on certain techno-functionalities? So what is the viscosity? Does it have the potential to gel? Does it foam? All those questions need to be addressed and further looked into. And then also with respect to the body, how well digestible is it? And in what type of food applications can it be applied? So having answered or having an idea of the direction for all those different aspects serves as the input for how to develop the process to in the end get that the targeted functionality of the ingredient. And apart from the technology side, also marketing and branding is of importance. So how would you like to position and market your company and the ingredient? So if you would like that your ingredient is the primary choice of sustainability, then you also need to select the protein which meets that sustainability needs, so to say. But at the same time, still delivering the right appearance for the customer. Another example, if you are more towards higher nutrition branding, then you have to make sure that also the protein has the right quality in terms of amino acid composition, but also digestibility, so that it also meets the consumer requirements and expectations.
Yeah. So there are a lot of aspects to it, a lot of possibilities. If you look at the future of microbial proteins for a food or an ingredient, what would you see?
Biomass is really remains in an unexplored country, so there is a lot of potential still, and also a lot still that needs to be discovered. And also in the field of nutrition and health benefits, I think there's really a lot of potential, which we now at the stage of unclosing. And I think in the coming years, I think even more benefits will become visible for microbial biomass in the health and nutritional benefit context. Also, if you look into product development, also the combination of microbial biomass and plant-derived alternative, combining that in one food product can have a strong benefit. So that it has a synergistic effect of combining strengths of both worlds, so to say. Yeah. Yes. So overall, I think that it's really clear that microbial biomass has a huge potential, and especially if we are always looking for ways to even further increase nutritional and health benefits, but very important at the same time try to limit the use of natural resources as much as possible.
Yeah. So Rianne, you explained the sustainability part, but combined with the health aspects, there is a lot to be gained from these novel biomasses. So both in the nutrition world and the digestion world, as well as in the components which are also produced, like fibers, vitamins. Yes. So thank you very much for elaborating on this. This was NIZO Talks Food and Health, and if you want to know more, please check out our website.